Just a very open, straightforward question here. Are all of these events going to take place, do we think, including the Japanese Olympics, given how concerned everybody seems to be about the infection risk?
That's a tricky question. I'm not sure what's going to happen to me tomorrow, let alone to major sporting events. I think probably in general, I'd be inclined to say yes. There's a huge amount of controversy around the Tokyo Games. Local population has petitioned against it, and there's widespread resentment that the Olympics will take place. But I think in terms of TV contracts and commercial arrangements that are in place, even the Tokyo Games will take place. So coming down with an answer, I think yes is my answer. I think.
I mean, this is a bizarre situation, isn't it? Sport is meant to unite us, not divide us. And here we have, not for the first time, it seems, the authorities in charge of this sporting event in Japan who are pushing ahead regardless of what appears to be very strong domestic opposition. Doesn't seem quite in the spirit of the Games.
It's important to stress this is not the 19th century. This is the 21st century. And whilst late 19th, early 20th century sports that were created to serve a socio-cultural purpose in many ways have become increasingly industrial, economic. And so there's a lot of money riding on the Tokyo Games. And so whilst there is incredible resistance, and we're talking about a huge number of people. There was one poll suggested that 85% of the Japanese population doesn't want the games to take place. But keep in mind, there are lots of brands, lots of TV deals. And add to that too, I think, obviously lots of athletes, their coaches, national teams and so on and so forth that have invested huge amounts of money into the games. And so you do have this economic and legal dimension to the competition that ultimately I think is going to win through.
Simon, I watch a fair amount of sport in my life, and I barely noticed the lack of fans in stadia at the sport I've been watching over the lockdown after a while. And that just tallies in with your point about revenue streams as well. Do we need, I mean, I know that for atmosphere point of view, I love to see fans in sporting arenas, but do we need fans in grounds to make a huge, meaningful difference to the finances of sport in generally, both for the backers of sport and, of course, the teams and players themselves?
I think that's a really, really great question. And what the pandemic has really done is to accelerate and amplify some of the things that have been happening over the last 5 years in particular. If you go back as early as 2016, 2017, there were already alarm bells ringing about the revenues that were being drawn from, if you like, traditional sources. So TV deals, but also ticket sales as well. And what we've seen through the pandemic is a huge explosion in the consumption of over-the-top broadcasting services. Obviously, Netflix is the primary example of that. But I think as well, what we're also beginning to see is younger audiences, and I'm thinking particularly here of Generation Z and following on from them, Generation Alpha. These kind of segments are not engaging with sport, particularly football in the Olympics, in the same way as people like us perhaps did. And so we are seeing more consumption via mobile. And so we face I think sport faces a really key issue right now, which is once the pandemic dissipates completely, what will we be left with? Will we still have those physical experiences inside stadiums with lots of people there? Or will the product have changed beyond recognition with younger audiences engaging principally through mobile? So we're going through a really tricky period, a really uncertain period right now. And in 5 years' time, I don't think it's certain what we're returning to. But I do think that sports consumption has changed for good throughout the pandemic.